Our guest, who is coming to us live from somewhere in North America. Let me see if I can bring him up on stage. Alon Mizrahi.
Hey, Patrick. So happy to be with you again.
Yeah, it's great to be with you as well. Yeah, the X app, Alon, has been going haywire this week. I don't know if you've experienced it. Everybody, so we're missing DMs. It's a lot of us are congregating off platform now because we just don't know if this is a reliable platform or not. So, but
it's very emblematic of the Trump administration and Elon Musk in it. I mean, it works like the US is working now.
So just before we get started on this important conversation, Alon, I was just telling our listeners earlier, if Elon can't manage this app, how is he going to build Dubai and Mars by 2035? Just honestly. Fair question.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get to the topic at hand, Elon. And again, thank you for joining us. This has been a very difficult period for a lot of people. You know, it's been difficult for the last 20 months for everyone, Alon, but it's especially difficult since Trump has become president, because there was a lot of hope coming in with this ceasefire that was announced in Gaza, and people suddenly saw, oh my gosh, the clouds are parting here. We're getting some sunlight. Perhaps they're going to let aid in, and we're going to somehow patch together this awful moment in history. And what's happened in the last 3 months, Alon, is it has just gotten steadily worse. And I didn't think that was possible, quite frankly. And it's just deteriorating on so many different levels. And I see your frustration on your channel, the Mizrahi Perspective, and we featured one of your videos this week. You're saying that we're past politics now, and I want you to talk about that. But first of all, I mean, a lot of people aren't familiar with you, Alon, and your story. Just a little bit of your life background, like your life in Israel and where you are, where you've come to now today in 2025, and then we'll talk about the issues at hand. But go ahead.
Okay. I grew up as a normal Israeli in northern Israel, in a small town. I come from a working class background, from an Arab Jewish family. My father was born in actually Palestine, and so was his father and grandfather. I grew up as an Israeli. As a child, I believed everything they told me, because as a child you have no ability for critical thinking. And I believed Zionism. I believed there is an Israeli identity simply because I didn't know anything else. It sounded like the only thing you can take and embrace in this world. But gradually, over many years, I started doubting the official story. It began, it's just an anecdote, but it began for me when I discovered my Mizrahi identity, my Jewish Arab identity, which is very not the same as an Ashkenazi Jewish identity. It's a different story, a different background. Jews who lived, just to say a line about this, Jews who lived in the Arab world, in the Muslim world, did not experience the same hatred and persecution that Ashkenazi Jews did experience in Europe. But in Zionism, through all kinds of manipulation, coercion, and brainwashing, the Zionism managed to create this fake one Jewish nation, which is not a real concept. Nevertheless, they managed to create this facade of one Jewish nation. And when I was open to seeing my own story and the story of my people, the Arab Jews, and how different it was from the story of Ashkenazi Jews, then the whole fabric of Zionism began to come undone for me, because I could see also the Palestinian story and all the rest of the holes in the Zionist story. And I'm a rebel by nature. I'm not a great believer in formal truth and establishment lines. So the more violent and the more openly fascistic and unwilling to even consider normalcy and peace Israel become, the more I realized I have less and less room in it. Until eventually, on basically 8 years ago, I already felt like Israel was completely lost and had no hope. But after the genocide began, I just decided to quit it altogether and leave Israel.
And so that's your channel's called the Mizrahi Perspective.
Yeah.
So, and when I first saw that, I thought that was your perspective, but actually the Mizrahi Perspective is a different perspective of the experience in Jewish experience and the experience in Israel. That's what I understood.
Actually, it's both, because it is my name, but it's also the title given to Arab Jews in Zionism. So it's personal, but it's also in the name of my people, so to speak.
And also, tell us a little bit about the current situation. As I understand it, I don't have nearly the probably the insights about Israeli society that you have. So maybe you can enlighten us as to what's going on in the minds of people in Israel, because we see an opposition. We see lots of protests out on the street. We have done for a long time against Netanyahu, against corruption, to bring home the hostages, and so forth. We see all that, and we see the liberal left, the much vaunted left wing, liberal left in Israel, that seem to want to, I don't know, restrain Netanyahu for different reasons. I'm not sure, but we don't see a lot of parliamentarians in Israel speaking up on behalf of the Palestinians, like maybe we should stop killing so many people. And it was explained to me by one gentleman that he said that tell me if I'm correct or not, Alon, maybe you can expand on this better, but he said that a lot of people in Israel believe that the world is against them and the world is fundamentally anti-Semitic, and they can't do anything about that. So they just have to do what they have to do to survive. And that's the general mentality. Tell me how close that is to reality, and then explain to what's going on in the minds, how things have got to this point, Alon.
Okay, this is unquestionably true. This is what not only Israelis believe, this is what Jews believe. And this is what especially Ashkenazi Jews believe. As I've said, Arab Jews were much less into this paranoia that the world hates us, wants to come after us and destroy us. It wasn't like this for us. But yes, Israelis are sure and Jews are sure that the whole world hates them. And this sadly has become, or is becoming in front of our eyes, a self-fulfilling prophecy, as all self-prophecies tend to become. But just to give you an example about the sort of opposition you have in Israel, I mean, just a few days ago, there's a guy called Yair Golan, and he's an ex-general, an ex-IDF general, who famously said almost, I think, 15 years ago, or almost 20 years ago, he said in a big official state ceremony that there were processes happening in Israel at the time reminiscent of similar processes happening in Germany in the 1920s and 30s. And he got jumped so bad for this, and he became, a target for right-wing hate, one of the biggest in Israel. And a few days ago, that same Yair Golan said, a normal country does not kill babies as a hobby and does not starve people and all of this. But when he said that, and he is like the most extreme Jewish left-winger of any, of any position and renown in Israel. But when he said that, he said, I'm not talking about the IDF. The IDF is my heart and my soul and my home. I am not criticizing the IDF. I'm only criticizing the political system, which makes this criticism meaningless. Because centering IDF as being above criticism, as being always moral, makes this criticism a joke. Because who is committing all those crimes? Who is doing this? It's IDF soldiers, it's IDF officers, it's IDF generals. It's not Netanyahu is not out there in Gaza killing women and children. Soldiers are doing this, and people are. When he tells his military, "We want to starve people," no one got up and left the room and went to the media and said, "This guy is nuts. We have to disobey this order," which is what's expected from a normal human being to do. This is your duty. This is not an option. When someone raises something this inhumane and cruel and barbaric, it is always your duty, no matter what, if you're an American soldier, if you're a Russian soldier, if you're an Ethiopian, it doesn't matter. When your high command or your political superiors suggest something like this, it is your duty to your fellow human beings and to humanity to disobey and refuse this order. But no one in the IDF has refused anything. So this is Yair Golan, and after 2 days after saying this, he again apologized so profusely for potentially being misunderstood as criticizing the IDF. So this is the state of Israel, and again, he is considered in Israeli mainstream. He's considered like he's the what's the American equivalent? Is the gang? Okay, he is Rashid Atleb. This is who he is in Israeli politics, and even he is not capable of making actual moral judgment and moral criticism about what's going on. And this is the big problem of the liberal, so-called liberal Jewish left. And we see the same phenomena with American liberals. They are only concerned with, this is why I believe change anywhere can only come from moderate right-wingers and Republicans. Not MAGA people, not brainwashed people who cannot see reality, but people who have their instincts because they have some capacity for truth and compassion and saying stuff they really mean, whereas liberals have this plague of always propping up their image as moral and nice and clean, nice people, but what they are never able to follow through with anything. And we have seen a whole year of genocide during the Biden administration being whitewashed live with one press conference and after another, with all those types giving all those ludicrous answers to all the question about Hind Rajab and this case and World Aid Kitchen and a million incidents. And Biden's White House, and it's not only Biden, I mean, the entire field of American liberal media has completely failed. The New York Times has been an actual arm of the Israeli Hasbara, of the genocide. They have published piece after piece and created this psychological momentum for genocide, with lies about mass rapes and all the lies Israel threw into the atmosphere. So we have an abject failure on the part of liberal media and liberal political camps, and it is true, and even more poignantly true in Israel. They are unable to break with the mainstream in a serious way. And you cannot change any system. You cannot be someone who changes anything politically when you are not willing to break with the system. When the first article in your, belief system is always justify the establishment and stand with the establishment, how are you going to be able to change anything? If you want to change stuff, you need to tell people you must not believe the system. You must not believe the official press. We offer a different story, which is based in morality, based in justice, as we see it. You don't have to see it as we do, but we will give you our version of reality. And we haven't seen this kind of position almost anywhere. In the US, definitely. In Israel, there's no question about it. I mean, the entire, and also the wider Jewish community, the wider Jewish collective. I mean, those are people. I mean, Reform American Jews, almost went to war with the Netanyahu government a decade ago over the Israeli right-wing Orthodox government refusal to let women lead the prayer services at the Wailing Wall, at the Western Wall. They made such a scene of it, and there was talk of breaking with Israel, and we cannot support, and it was public. And they came to Israel, and people need to look this up. I mean, this tells you how much hypocrisy. I mean, you go to war and you're willing to break with the Israel and the Israeli government and say Israel has become too fundamentalist, too extreme. We cannot identify, because it's not letting women lead. And by the way, in Judaism, women never led prayer services. This is it. This is the deal. You want to create your own school, you cannot force it on someone else. You cannot decide you're now a Reform Islam and a woman will be the mufti of a mosque. It's not going to work. I mean, create your own religion. I mean, this is, I mean, take it or leave it. This is my position. This is what this religion is about. But this is beside the point. If for this symbolic, I'm sorry to say it, nonsense, because this is liberal causes are always about optics, how things look. I mean, it doesn't matter what the military is doing, but we need to have transgender and women in combat roles. But we're not going to ask, where are they sent? Okay, what are they doing? Is this moral? Is this justified? These conversations liberals never want to have. But they do want to talk about if we do or don't have transgender soldiers, as if this is like the most important. And this is the brain rot that liberalism has brought to the West. I mean, to me, with conservatives, if they are not completely deranged, you can have a conversation. Even if you don't agree with their opinions, many times, I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is like the most honest member of Congress at the moment. Mm-hmm. And there are a million things I won't agree with her on, but at least I feel that her stance respects other people, because she says she has clear boundaries. She says, this is what I stand for, this is what I don't stand for, and you can believe her. And I can believe, and I do believe, that she stands for morality more than Chuck Schumer, more than a million other liberals and New York Times writers, people who have the highbrows of the American landscape. But because I want to say something about Trump. His presidency began in a very promising way as regards the genocide, because he insisted we needed to have a ceasefire. Before I'm sworn, a ceasefire began the day before he was sworn in. And this was such a positive sign. This told me this man is at least aware that there's a massacre going on, and this is not good. This is not good for anyone. This is not good for the world. This is not good for humanity. This is not good for America. This is not good for anyone. Palestinians are the victims, but this is not good for anyone. And it was a prolonged, serious ceasefire, and Palestinians finally had a minute to breathe and sleep at night without fearing them and their children are going to be blown apart or burned alive any minute. But you could see this dynamic, this very heartbreaking and dark and ominous dynamic where every time Trump makes any kind of step saying or showing that he is an independent president, looking for the interests of America first, again, however he sees them, still America first. Every time he does that, you can feel the chokehold of Israel lobby and Israel interest group in Washington tighten around him, around his neck, and he has to fold and he has to agree to things he initially didn't want to agree to. And immediately after he stopped this Houthi campaign in Yemen, this idiotic, I mean, you go to war to not have a discussion about genocide. I mean, what the hell is this even? I mean, was there ever a more repugnant war? I mean, you go and bomb Yemenis, some of the poorest people in the world. When they tell you we are going to stop this war if the carnage in Gaza is stopped, they made it very clear. And still you send, but the minute is decided to stop this campaign and went to this summit in the Gulf, and you had a minute of illusion that the clouds are parting and maybe some rays of light are coming into the picture. They began again sounding even crazier than before and saying Iran is not going to have no enrichment. What do you mean no enrichment? This was never on the table. They embraced a more hardline position than before, and now they have this monstrous quote unquote aid system that they are starting in Gaza with American mercenaries and ex-soldiers and spies supposedly feeding the population of Gaza. And what the hell is this? This is so ominous. This is like a preparation for something so dark, and this is part of why I say, to answer your original question, why we are not in the realm of politics anymore. This is not about politics. This is an actual fight of good versus evil. This is dark evil forces trying to take over the entire world. This is what it is. Because it is clear to everyone, Israel hasn't been fighting a war since a week after October 7. Once they pushed everyone out and shut the border closed, it wasn't a war anymore because Hamas has no military to fight Israeli. They made this unbelievable commando operation, which is what October 7 mostly was, and this part we are led to deny. But Hamas occupied a series of IDF bases and killed mostly soldiers on October 7. Hamas caught IDF off guard, and it was, from the military perspective, it was a brilliant and successful operation. And what happened with the massacre around it, what really happened, we don't know to this day. I mean, there was a Hannibal directive, as they call it in Israel. We know that IDF, we don't know what really happened. But we know that a part of what happened of this day, and this is undeniable, was a military strike against Israel. Be this as it may, once Israel stopped this onslaught and shut the border closed and killed or drove every Hamas member back into Gaza, this is where its just military effort ended. Because now you have on the other side of the border what you had for 60 years before that, which is a population of besieged, occupied refugees. Most of them are refugees from 1948 Palestine, who had been living in the most terrible conditions for decades. And they cannot defend themselves, and they have no shelters, and they have no logistic, way to deal with anything. They don't have like food storage, huge storage of food to feed the population. They don't even have water supply to give to their people. So how do you wage a quote-unquote war against this enclave of disconnected and besieged and hungry and fatigued and occupied people? This was immoral from the first day, after the original Hamas onslaught was stopped, which Israel was right in doing. I mean, no one can deny they had the right to stop the onslaught while it was ongoing. Maybe not in the crazy way they did it with the Hannibal Directive. And we have several well-documented cases of the IDF killing Israelis and killing captives in Be'eri and in other places, killing 12 people in Be'eri in one incident, shooting tank shells into a house where captives were kept with Hamas members. This was told by a survivor of this attack. And there were other instances like that. And so this has been allowed to go on for so long. This is not about Israel. This is not even about crazy revenge anymore. And revenge is not a legitimate political cause anyway. It's not normal for any society to pursue revenge. This is not how you live life. This is prehistoric. You don't seek revenge. I know it's very much the American way. The left today, we take revenge, we kill deaths, we eliminated. This is not. This should not be normalized, and humanity should not normalize this. Revenge is not a normal policy to pursue. But this is not even that anymore. And this is not even about the territory. This is about creating a world where Israel, especially, but maybe the US and its other allies, are allowed to exterminate people at will and do whatever they want in the world while maintaining an image of being a moral and just society. And this is something we all have to fight. This is a fight humanity cannot lose. We cannot have this kind of reality normalized. And I'm sorry to say it because I don't think Americans are especially evil. I think Americans are very confused politically, and they have been very weakened politically and depoliticized as a society. And it's a problem not only for America, it's a problem for the world. Because when your country supports something like what Israel is doing, I would expect a society to have a healthy, sizable opposition in the name of morality. And it doesn't have anything to do with where you stand on the, what kind of financial, economic system you want. What if you are for transgenders or against transgenders? This has nothing to do and should have nothing to do. Or if you're a Christian believer or if you're a secular agnostic, it doesn't matter. When children are being mass murdered, we need the society to speak up against it. If we don't have it, we have gone crazy. And sadly, you see no opposition in the American political landscape to what the US is doing with Israel. And I knew that Israel was crazy before October 7. But I had no idea. This really, this caught me unprepared. I did not know that the US was going to allow Israel to do something like this and assist it. And I had no idea. I really didn't suspect this. That the entire landscape of American media, American news outlets, American magazines, all this huge industry of opinion and narratives will stand idly by as the US helps another country exterminate the people. I didn't see this one coming, I have to admit. And it's not only in the US, but at least in Europe, you see some resistance to it. You see some resistance, whereas in the US, there is almost no resistance. Even, the ridiculous rallies that they are having now, AOC and Bernie Sanders, they only talk about Trump. They never talk about the genocide. They never talk about the genocide. Then, when you don't talk about something, the elephant in the room, what you're saying is, I'm basically sanctifying the status quo. I don't want to change anything. I'm not willing to challenge the biggest evil of this moment. So how can you be in opposition to anything? How are you in opposition? This is a joke. This is a joke. And I have to finish this long monologue with this. The Democrats, I believe it, and I think it's provable, lost the election over their support for the genocide. They were seen as a party of weak people who can be easily led and dragged and manipulated by Netanyahu and Israel into doing anything against their own declared principles. Because Democrats never had like a set of principles saying, we are going to support Israel as it exterminates people, and we will do Israel's bidding, whatever it says. It was never part of the Democratic platform. They were supposedly about, we care about people, we care about community, we care about justice, we care about racism. I mean, all the years of talking about racism. All the years, they started a whole wave of demonstrations around the killing of one man a couple of years back. And now a whole society is being destroyed, and you say nothing. So what do you even stand for? So I believe they lost the election over theirs, and they lost. They turned against their radical core, because there was a genuine radical core to the Democratic Party. People who are actually, I can say radical leftists, but real leftists, who don't say I'm against bad things, except when Israel does them. Then I'm for them. People who are actually for equality. And the Democratic Party actually turned on them and put out their fire because it didn't want them in all its festivities, all its ceremonies, and those people are very important for especially about a supposedly left-leaning party, because you need popular support. You need this kind of fire. Even if eventually the policy is not going to be as left-wing as the grassroots demand, you still need to have these people to give the party a sense of vitality, a sense of we are connected with the moment, and we are looking into the future, and we are connected with society at this particular moment. And they decided they are willing to sacrifice. And this may be like a 1% or 2% of Democrats, but they are much more important than the actual numbers, because they give the moral validity, the moral stance, the energy to the rest of the party, which becomes just a huge machine for jobs and lucrative offers and image management without this moral base. So they kicked them out basically, and they left out all the Palestinian and Muslim voters, which again maybe aren't many, but elections in the US are always very close. 100,000 people will decide who is going to be president at the end of the day in a few swing states. And they knowingly decided to sacrifice this for the sake of Israel's genocide. So they lost the election over it. And they made Donald Trump, and this is the biggest joke, and this is how fake American politics really is, because they presented Trump as the Hitler of all Hitlers, okay? The biggest menace to America and normalcy and democracy, all the words liberals love so much. For years, for a decade, this has been their project. Not improving American lives, not doing anything, not stopping empire, not reconsidering anything, not focusing on healthcare, nothing. We are against Trump. We are against Trump, and we are for the science establishment in COVID. This has been and transgenders maybe, but Trump has been, and they have made this person president by refusing to condemn and stop a genocide, which is and not enough attention is given to this point. I mean, you depict someone as your arch enemy, the most dangerous human being in your society, which may well bring. I'm not sure America is coming back from what's going on at the moment. I'm not sure it's coming back. I mean, if they manage to actually replace thousands of public service workers, people in all kinds of positions, in many states, in many different arms of the government, and they are all now loyal to the MAGA revolution and to Trump. How do you overcome this? I mean, how do you come back from this? America is also already in a big mess in terms of figuring out its future. Even if you took aside everything else, I mean, the economic aspect and the rivalry with China and the East, and the empire which is starting to crumble and it cannot win war anymore, and everyone can see it. But domestically, the US is in a big mess now. So helping Trump to get into the White House with so much hanging in the balance against everything you ever spoke against, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. So the Democratic brand has become so hollow. They become so hollow. What do they stand for? How can they say with a straight face that they stand for anything? I mean, what I'm saying now would be, if I said this in a liberal room, I would be kicked out, because this is something you are not allowed. You are not allowed to question the integrity of the party. Like, you are not allowed to have an actual discussion about the real stuff. And I've seen this in conversations with liberals. There comes a certain point when your criticism becomes like real. When you tell them, how do you do this when you say you believe that? This is like a basic question. They shut down. They don't want to continue the conversation. They are not willing to consider actual criticism of what they're doing. And they have become hollow. And now what does the Republican Party stand for anymore? They are not making deficits. This is a joke. They are not anti-war. They are not cutting deficits. They are not improving America's standing in the world. They are not making the government smaller. This is also a nonsense. I mean, they talk the talk, but they are going to increase all budgets and increase deficits by trillions with this golden dome. I mean, so you have a Democratic parties that stands for nothing, and you have a Republican parties that stands for close to nothing, because and everything hangs now. This is my final point I said before, but no, this is really my final point. Everything now depends on whether Israel manages to pull the US into attacking Iran or not. This will decide the future of the US. This will, in my opinion, bring an end to Israel. And this will shape the 21st century. This and everything depends on this. And as things for a while, originally I believe this is the kind of agreement the Israel lobby and the Jewish lobby made with MAGA and Trump a year ago. They are going to support Trump, and Trump is going to give them Iran on a silver platter. I thought that was a deal, and I think this explains part of the reason why Democrats looked like they were losing the election on purpose, because part of the big donors and the big, ball players in the Democratic Party wanted Trump to win to guarantee Israel's safety. Let's put it this way. But when Trump went into office and sounded more like saner than we expected, and wanted a ceasefire, and there was this Houthi campaign, but then he stopped it, and then he went to the Gulf, and he looked like he was willing to make a deal with Iran. I started thinking maybe MAGA fooled the Israel lobby. They told them, yeah, we're going to do whatever you want, help us to get elected, but now we're elected, we're not going to do whatever you say. We are going to look after our own interests. But now again, I'm seeing that this dynamic is shifting again, and again you see the pro-Israel, the Zionist voice getting stronger and stronger in the Trump administration, and the chances of a deal with Iran, which seemed high like 2 weeks ago, now again appear to be much lower. And if there's no deal with Iran, Israel is going to attack, and the US will have to join it, because there's no way to stop this dynamic in American politics with this American Congress, with this media, with everything that we know about the US. The US will be dragged into it. The only way to stop Israel from attacking Iran and dragging the whole world into chaos is by having the US signing a deal with Iran. Because if the US, especially the Trump administration, signed this deal, Israel would be seen as the belligerent party. It will have no moral justification for attacking Iran, because this is Trump, the most friendly president for Israel ever. But if they don't sign this deal, Israel is going to attack Iran 100%, and the US will be dragged into it. And I have to tell you that the entire history of what we have seen until now is not going to be the same world we live in anymore. Once this war breaks, this is going to have such huge and wide-ranging implications for American society, for European society, for the Middle East. But about this, again, you see no serious opposition in the US and no real discussion. And this is where I'm going to stop. There's no discussion.
Yeah, no substantial or intelligent discussion, not a discussion that's ballasted on the truth. And that's what's missing on all of these big conversations. And I think this is just a really deterioration of the political, intellectual circles in Washington, generally in the media, in academia. And just to backtrack a little bit, Alon, on what you said, how one of the reasons we got to this place, how's the Israel lobby been able to get such traction? And so Democrats used to be the champions of civil liberties way back in the day. I mean, this is what was their forte, the ACLU, et cetera. They've completely shunned all of that. But this was then there was the Republican conservative critique of the left, was that they wanted safe spaces. They won't allow free speech on campus. It's all woke. It's woke this, woke that. And as you said, where the Democrats basically jettisoned all of their core values, the Republicans are now demanding safe spaces on U.S. campuses. They're shutting down and deporting people for criticizing a foreign country, Israel in this case. And the twisting of the language, of the dialogue, of the discourse has been something unbelievable. And the environment right now is that it's with the ADL coming in and basically ready to kind of marshal any kind of crazy situation like we saw in Washington. I'll bring this clip up here because I'll play this, Alon, and then I'll let you respond, because this is just so emblematic here. This is Netanyahu basically, reconfiguring reality effectively, redefining what free Palestine means.
Yeah.
We'll play this. This is something I think people should know.
Free Palestine is just today's version of Heil Hitler. Free Palestine is just today's version of Heil Hitler.
I mean, how do you respond to something like that, Alon? I mean, it's just, but this is normal now. This is normal conservative discourse.
This is the new normal. And as I wrote yesterday on my X account, this is Netanyahu declaring phase 2.0 of the cultural attack around the genocide. This is now Netanyahu saying, we are not going to stop at so quote unquote defending Israel and defending the extermination of a people. We are now going to use Western governments. This is Netanyahu speaking to the pro-Palestinian crowd and Western public in general. And he's telling them, we are going to use your governments to treat you as Nazis.
Mm.
We are going to come after you using your political system, your legal system, your law enforcement system to rain down on you and destroy you as the Nazis of this era. And he means it. And he means it. And from what I see, I can see some resistance to this in Europe. I see no resistance to this in the US. And this is so terrible. And again, we're not in the realm of politics anymore. This is primordial insanity. This is not politics. I mean, this is Israel and Netanyahu, and Netanyahu is not a normal person. He's not a sane person. I mean, this used to be common knowledge before the genocide, but now he's become this international star once again because he's mass murdering all those people, which is nuts. I mean, no one liked Netanyahu before the genocide. He wasn't a welcome guest in European capitals. No one wanted to meet him. They saw him as a dangerous and unreliable and deceitful and cynical, disgusting human being. But now, because he's killed all those people, now this legitimizes him. I mean, are you crazy? But again, there's more than early signs of resistance in Europe. You see massive demonstrations in the UK. In the UK, you see parliamentarians speak up openly about what Israel is doing, and not giving their government a minute's rest on this. They ask one question after another, and Spain, and you have whole countries that openly speak against this and about this, big important countries like Spain. So you see, I don't think Europe is falling for this. For Free Palestine is the new Heil Hitler. And I think Europe has began like gently touching the brakes on all of this, like a couple of weeks ago. I think that once Israel declared this Gideon's chariots offensive, you could feel that European politicians and even the establishment media, which is the biggest tale of where things are going, right? This is all managed by intelligence services. And they tell them, show more compassion to Palestinians because this is where we're going. Or be more open to anti-vaxxers because we are going to change our stance on COVID. This is so obvious, this dynamic. But you could see the beginning of like touching the brakes, like breaking from Israel, letting Israel still go ahead, not stopping the Israeli car, but not being like completely aligned with it anymore. Whereas in the US, it's like it's speeding. It's speeding with Israel on this rampage. And I mean, there are so many completely nuts aspects to this, but I think that after whatever is coming next, a world war, an Iran war, an apocalypse, a zombie apocalypse, I don't discount anything at this stage, seriously. One thing which is going to puzzle people is, how did Western governments agree to denounce millions of their own citizens as crazy people and hateful people on behalf of this small country in the Middle East? I mean, think about this. A guy from Pennsylvania or from New Jersey or from Oklahoma, telling his people, his constituency, people he grew up with, people he goes to work with, people from his country, men and women, you are evil people who must not be trusted. And it is my job and responsibility as government, as political power, to follow, censor, intimidate you so that your crazy doesn't do damage in the world. How is this normal? How is this normal? And I think about how insulting this is to Americans, to the American people, because Jews have been part of American society for centuries. Mm. There was never any law against Jews. I mean, you were never allowed to discriminate. You were allowed to encouraged to discriminate against other groups, right? But never against Jews. I mean, Jewish identity was never an issue in America, which is a good thing. This is what we want. But after centuries of this, it's not coexistence, it's one existence, an American existence. Now, the prominent Jewish political voice is, you are an anti-Semitic society. You are and again, to come back to my original point, this is very Ashkenazi and European Jewish. I mean, Arab Jews would never dream of saying something like this. I could never, in my wildest dreams, see a Moroccan rabbi, a Moroccan public leader, Jewish public leader, public speaker, saying to the Moroccans or to the Iraqis or to the Egyptians, you are very bad people who hate Jews. he would say maybe this step that you have taken is unfair. This something that you do, it's look at this, you will agree this is not fair. This is not the right thing to do, which is normal and acceptable. It's okay to do this. But to describe a society as anti-Semitic, and they call on the right, on the everyone is how is everyone anti-Semitic in the US? This is so much crap. I mean, even the classic racism of hating black people is not in fashion in the US anymore, and hasn't been in fashion for a long time. This is not like the normal way to be American anymore, to talk badly about people of color. It's not. So where does this even come from? And it's as if we can see that this is meant to allow genocide to go on. I mean, are people this stupid? Do they think people are this stupid? Do you think people can see the correlation between the rise in the anti-Semitism scare and what Israel is doing? Can anyone miss that? I don't think so.
Yeah, and they're taking it to yet another level this week. They dragged in the South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa, in front of the White House to the awful, embarrassing scene, saying there's a white genocide going on in South Africa. No word, no outrage about Gaza, of course. And, you know, these scenes, Alon, I mean, this isn't a staged dramatic photograph. This is the daily reality right now in Gaza. And this isn't a very rough photograph. This is pretty tame, actually, compared to some of the other scenes we've seen. And not only that, but at any moment they could be in danger of being bombed, even while they're trying to get fed. I mean, it's just these types of things were just unacceptable in Western society not very long ago. And somehow there's almost like this ingrained conditioning that's gone on in the West to equate Palestinians, especially Palestinians, Muslims and Arabs, but even the people in the Gulf regard Palestinians as the Gulf states. There is a bit of a pecking order, if you will, in the Arab world when it comes to the Gulf, and it's unacceptable right across the board. Europe, they don't is such a powerful narrative that's somehow been allowed to kind of take over. There's something going in the psyche. This is a major human psychological event that I'm trying to, you know, we're all trying to figure out what's going on, because it's profound. It has major implications for the human race. And I think you're touching on that in your what you've written recently, the content that you put out recently. You're getting in there, Alon, I think, to try to say we're trying to work out what's going on, because we need to understand this. We really do, because this is profound for everybody. It's not just about any particular group. This is a humanity issue that's really taking place, a major shift. We've got a couple of minutes left, and I just want to kind of give you the floor, Alon, to finish off this segment, to talk about this really, some of these more profound universal phenomenon that's going on. But go ahead, Alon.
Yeah, I will say something about this, but first I want to say something about America, about the US. 20 years ago or so, I studied English language and literature at Haifa University. And I discovered Emerson, the American philosopher, Ralph Waldo Emerson. And I discovered Walt Whitman. It was the first time I read Walt Whitman, like, seriously. I mean, Crossing Brooklyn Ferry, the poem by Whitman. This has walked with me for years, because this touched me and allowed me to see something about something I longed for. This kind of almost metaphysical view of reality. Because this is what crossing Brooklyn Ferry is. It's not about I see you 100 years hence. I see you into the future. This is a poem about a community of humankind which transcends time and place. And also Emerson with this, whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist. Everything Emerson ever writes is about nonconformity and independence of mind. And for years, I believed that this school of thinking was essential to the American psyche and American soul, the American project. And I actually believed it. And I believed that America was a place where dissidence and nonconformity was a respected institution, was a respected cultural phenomena, where people and culture were willing to not only allow it, but encourage it. Because this is a very, very healthy for a society to encourage dissent, because as we have so often seen, majorities and consensus can be so tragically mistaken. And what I want to say with this is, what I have seen, I have begun to see it with COVID. But in COVID, you had resistance. Now you have no resistance. Now this whole, school or tradition of nonconformity, which was so essential. It was one of the saving graces of a society organized around very racist concepts and the eradication of Native Americans and all the ills of the past that we know of, not only the past. But the disappearance of this and the America becoming the actual land of conformity, of obedience, of one establishment government line that everybody follows and no one dissents from and no one objects to. This is, I mean, I'm looking at things again, perhaps inspired also by Whitman, not only as the current, the current minute in time. I'm looking at things from a historical perspective. How is this going to look in 10 or 15 or 20 years? When an entire society, governments can go evil. This is nothing new. This was one of the founding reasons for the American Revolution, for the old philosophy, the old American philosophy of government, which it never really lived up to, but at least it existed in theory. The idea that governments can go evil, and it is never a citizen's job to blindly follow government directives. We want to limit government. We want to constrain government. We don't want a government that defines everything that we are and everything that we do. This was like a basic logic of American philosophy. And we now see this has completely disappeared from America. And this is a very bad sign for this country, to me. This is a very bad sign for any country, but especially for America, this is a very bad sign, because this tells us of a rot, of a cultural rot. It means American society is not dynamic anymore. It is not vibrant. It has become frozen. It's a society that doesn't move for change. It's a society that's blocking change. And this wasn't what America was supposed to be. America was supposed to be, if I disregard all the terrible evils of the early centuries, maybe, of the American project. If there was something good and positive about this, it was this. We do not sanctify tradition. We are looking for new ways to do things and be moral and be present in the world and not obey authority automatically ever. This is not what we're about. But now we can see that this is all America has become, because this is the two-party line is completely one. Not to sound too prophetic or too serious, but this is a very serious time. This is a very serious time. The future of the U.S., the future of Western so-called civilization, and we still need to see evidence that this is indeed a civilization. It hangs in the balance now. How the West is able to treat Israel, to reign in Israel, or to handle the aftermath of what Israel is doing, is really going to define its future. And we didn't mention it, but this genocide comes at a particularly important or meaningful time in history, because we are exactly at the moment where the Eastern powers are taking the lead, basically in human culture, in the great human civilization, and the West seems to be losing momentum. So to allow this to shape and color the Western civilization at this very moment, maybe the biggest mistake this civilization has made in a very long time. And frankly, I don't see much hope for the US changing course anymore. It's had such a long time to do it. So many different people, 2 administrations, 2 parties, so many media outlets. And I'm sorry, I can't see change coming from the US anymore, sadly, because I would really like to see the US being what it promised to be, which is a vibrant and open society with open debate and with a love and respect for equality and all those things which are so important and vital for the US. But I'm not seeing this happening anytime soon. I have some hope for Europe. Some hope. It's limited, but it's there, because we can see a position. We can see people standing up, people saying enough. We can't see children dismembered and dying every day forever, which seems like what Israel wants to do. So everything now depends on whether Israel succeeds in dragging the US to war with Iran, and it looks like it will. And these may be the last moments of this previous sane world that we had, because things are not going to be the same after this war. After this war breaks, and I think to me it looks like we're minutes away from it, and everything that everything that the discussion in the West is going to look so irrelevant after this war.
Yeah, thank you, Alon. I think it is a very, very crucial period right now, and it's almost like a lot of people need some kind of a collective epiphany, a miracle, in a change in thinking. I agree with you. I think the U.S. is on a downward trajectory that's almost like terminal. It's very, very hard to change, and but it wouldn't be the first time an empire is locked into a terminal decline. And I think, but the impact on this is going to be particularly brutal, I think, for a lot of people, and the collateral damage this is going to cause, wide-ranging effect, which you talked about for the world.
And it just one sentence. I mean, it was such an easy test. It's not a difficult test. When children are being amputated without anesthesia. This is not a difficult moral test for anyone. I don't give a fuck what you believed in, what your God is called, who your grandfather was, what revolution you stand for or opposed. It's meaningless to me. When the end result of what you stand for is such brutality and cruelty and sadism towards the life in its purest and defenseless form as children or women in labor or right after labor, when this is what you stand for, then you are an utter and abject failure. And there's no context for this. There are no reasons for this. There are no other ways to see it. Everything you stand for is a lie, and you're a vicious and evil human being. And I'm saying this to every American politician, every American media figure who still sells and peddles this two-sided nonsense or pro-Israel nonsense. What does it mean to be pro-Israel? How can you be on the side of the people who starve babies to death? It wasn't a difficult test, and still America failed miserably. All of America, all political parties, everyone. This is a sad way to go. This is not a nuclear war with Soviet Russia, right? This is the simplest. This is something you had to solve on your first day of grade school. This is not an easy challenge. This is not a difficult challenge. How do you fail this? This is the question that's going to torment us for a long time, I suspect.
Yeah, and it's a question that we are all scratching our heads, being educated about previous world wars and holocausts. Oh, how could it possibly happen? Look at this utopia we've constructed after the Second World War. We'll never have that problem again, will we? We're not going to be involved in any such thing. And so we're getting that education. That was always a question lingering in the back of our heads, even as teenagers when we were learning history. And it was always like, how could this have happened in Germany, etc. And I think we have the answers to a lot of those questions. Very sadly, we have them. We have some of the answers.
Yeah, I think that maybe 10 years ago, and while I was still writing only in Hebrew, I only started writing in English after the genocide because I realized there was no point. I have no use for Hebrew anymore politically. I wrote a status on my Facebook saying, like a conversation between a child and father. A child is saying, "Daddy, how did the Holocaust happen? How did it happen?" And the father answers like this: "This is how it happened." Because I could see this coming. I could see where this was going. And yet, this is how it happened. This is how the worst things happen. We can see it all clearly.
Alon Mizrahi, thank you for joining us on the Sunday Wire. A lot more, hopefully, we can discuss in future, but go to Alon's X account. If X is still online, Alon_Mizrahi, plus the Mizrahi Perspective. We've got a link on our show page, goes to his YouTube channel. You want to subscribe and do check his videos that he's releasing and the content that he's putting out, Alon. And we really appreciate, again, thank you for making the effort. We managed to get it together, and hopefully we'll do it again.
Yes, I hope so too. Thank you, Patrick. It's been a joy. Thank you.
Thank you, Alon. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. That is Alon Mizrahi. Again, all the links are on the show page. We're going to go to break right now, and we'll connect with a few members of our team after the break. Basil Valentine, among others. We'll discuss this and much, much more in Overdrive. Look forward to seeing you. In the meantime, enjoy the music of Peyote for President, one of my new favorite tracks. It's been around since October 7th. It's called The Palestinian Children. We'll see you in a few minutes.
All of the pictures left unpainted, all of the games they left unplayed, all the laughter in the playground. of a million Palestinian children. All of those voices left in silence, all with their names written in kind, lest their bodies poked from rubble, lifeless empty dolls to find. Ghost faces of a million Palestinian children. What of the songs they've never written? What of the words they'll never sing? And the darkness of the nightmare, inescapable that rings. The ghost faces of a million Palestinian children. I hear the crying, helpless children, God's most precious and most dear. I hear them begging for the reason. How could you ever leave us here? I close the eyelids of a million Palestinian children. So what do we really stand for? Is this how our future's made? And when we ever find the courage to stand up unafraid, I tear away the persecution of the Palestinian children. Rise up and be the guardians of the Palestinian children. To respect our obligation, every creed and every nation, 'cause every soul deserves protection. Save the Palestinian children. Save the Palestinian children.